This is going to be a reaction video to First Take today, and the topic in regards to LeBron James and him not taking accountability for what they believe is the firing of Darvin Ham. And as this clip goes along, you're going to hear other audio of what they were talking about. But there's a more of a psychological chess game that is going on. And again, as you hear these clips, you'll see what I mean. Let's start.
If you want to be the GOAT, you want to tell everybody you're the GOAT, you're the greatest player of all time, you want to have it on podcasts, you want to have it, then take accountability like one. Do that. You don't blame this cryptically or backhandedly on Darvin Ham. I don't want to hear from anybody in a Laker uniform that the primary problem was Darvin Ham. Yes, LeBron and Anthony Davis were great in that series, but they weren't good enough against Denver. So take that on. GOAT carries responsibility. I don't see it.
Does 10 head coaches hurt LeBron's GOAT case?
Yes, it do.
Let me chime in here. As I was listening to these clips, or this one as it continued, I thought to myself, if one wants to hold LeBron James accountable, saying that he needs to take more responsibility as to why certain coaches throughout his career were fired, I don't have a problem with that argument being made. I do think it's a separate argument, though, in terms of what somebody would have as their own morals and ethics and how they go about things, as opposed to the GOAT conversation and who is the greatest of all time. I kind of look at that as two separate issues. And I don't have LeBron as my GOAT, by the way, right? I'm not somebody saying LeBron James is the greatest of all time, at least as of right now. Maybe if he wins another ring, we could go down that rabbit hole again. Also, I need to state that I posted a video recently of Charles Barkley calling out other networks for unfair coaching narratives. And anytime Charles Barkley mentions something in critique with other networks, I do believe he's alluding to ESPN. His critique was that the players were not getting enough blame and that the coaches were, which is why I was very interested in this First Take conversation. Let's continue.
But here's the deal. To just throw out, most career head coaches, all right, 10 or more career, players with 10 or more career NBA All-Star selections, okay? Moses Malone had 13 coaches in 19 seasons. Tied for number one was Shaquille O'Neal. 13 coaches, 19 seasons. Patrick Ewing, 11 coaches, 17 seasons. Carmelo Anthony, 11 in 19. Allen Iverson, 10 and 14 years. Bob Pettit, 10 and 11 years. Kobe Bryant, 10 and 20 seasons. Kobe Bryant, okay? Kevin Garnett, 9 and 21 seasons. LeBron James, now 9 and 21 seasons. And Jason Kidd, congratulations to him. He just got his contract extension. He deserves it. 9 and 19 seasons. So we're not saying just because you've had these coaches that ultimately compromises you to some degree. What I'm saying, Shannon, is every voice that I gave you, maybe with the exception of Patrick Ewing, who just didn't talk. He was like Kawhi Leonard before Kawhi Leonard to some degree, at least to a small degree anyway. But outside of that, all of these brothers were outspoken.
I'm really glad Stephen A. brought this up in context, showing you guys that there's other NBA stars throughout their careers who had multiple coaches. And it makes me double down even more on what I was saying earlier. I don't think this is about the GOAT conversation, which I said is separate. I believe this is a bigger issue that guys like Stephen A. have in the media with a LeBron, and they believe that he is not speaking up and truly showing, let's say, his true colors as to how he feels about certain situations with coaches, and so he appears innocent. I think that's their perception that they have of him, and that's what they are trying to tell the viewers. Let's continue though, because this gets a little bit more deeper.
Okay, so when I think about the comments when you said, about Jordan and his expectations, you know why the expectations are different for LeBron James? Because LeBron James put these expectations. LeBron James put these expectations on himself. Because LeBron James is always calling himself on several occasions the GOAT. LeBron James is always speaking out about it. We don't hear Jordan calling himself the GOAT.
To put this in better context, Shannon Sharp was asking, why is it that at this stage in LeBron James' career, at 39, 20 plus years in the NBA, is there still expectations of him to be this guy that delivers a championship in comparison to Michael Jordan at the same age when he was on the Washington Wizards? And this is the response that Kendrick Perkins ended up giving. I partially agree with Perkins, not to a full extent, I think the main reason why is because LeBron, at this point in his career, still looks like a superstar. When you look at Michael Jordan on the Wizards, he did not look like the guy who was on the Chicago Bulls. So no one expected him to deliver that team a championship. Had he still looked like that same guy on the Bulls, it would have been a totally different argument. So that's what I think. Let's go on.
We're going to make sure that LeBron James camp doesn't get to pull off what they will try to pull off. Because you see, the narrative is already, we're blaming LeBron James for the firing of coaches. That's not what this discussion is. What this discussion is us debating that another firing that has occurred under his watch, whether or not that compromises quote-unquote GOAT status in the eyes of a Shannon Sharpe or Kendrick Perkins or Stephen A. Smith and others. That is what the debate is. See, they'll leave. And what they'll say is, oh, LeBron James is getting blamed for the firing. We're not saying that. What we're saying is that you're not as innocent and you're not some just mere spectator in this whole scenario the way you try to pretend to be, while acknowledging that that's a reality that he has to live with because of this insatiable appetite he has to control narratives. You want to make sure that you're the guy that gets to put your fingerprints on narratives because you have proven throughout the years that you care about that.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I said in the beginning this was a psychological game of chess. He said he has his way of doing narratives, LeBron James, and they have ours, as in the media. And he went on to say the difference is the media does it more objectively versus LeBron covering himself. He's not going to be as honest in his critique of himself. And I think LeBron has every right to challenge narratives, to want to create his own storyline as how he sees it. I don't have any issue with that. The media is obviously going to do what they do. They have a job, so they're going to cover it how they see it. At the end of the day, this is a power for control and perception. That's all that it is, in my opinion. What do y'all think? Let me know. There's a lot more that was said, but I wanted to cover the crux of this, which is power and control. And in order to get into that conversation or talk about it, the GOAT conversation had to be introduced.